the United States is battling with congestion of shipping containers in some major ports. It is reported that dozens of ships remain at anchor outside the harbor of the West Coast ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, with hundreds of thousands of containers on board. In a Xinhua interview, Sam Ruder, director of the Port Department of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, said port operators should keep shipping containers moving in the logistics chain to avoid delays or congestion.
This is really about the efficiency of the handoffs. Ship to terminal, terminal to truck, truck to rail, as well as the return flow of empty containers. It's really important here that the import cargo, when it's unloaded, that it goes out gate to the warehouse distribution facility as fast as possible. I think where ports are getting, run into problems with congestion is in dwell time. Dwell time at the terminal, and what happens is if the terminal gets filled, then you have no space to unload cargo from the ships. We've been able to keep that cycle fairly fluid through the port, but our terminal operators are watching this very, very carefully. We've seen a huge volume increase in container cargo. It really goes back to the second half of last year, 2020. Actually, the first half of 2020, we actually saw a cargo decline, but the second half of 2020 was very strong. And that really has continued into 2021. So far this year to date, we're up about 24% in terms of our cargo volume. And our import volume has been equally strong, also around 24% growth. Fortunately, we have not really been experiencing the big backlog of vessels in port. I can share with you that as of this morning, we had one vessel at Anchorage. So really, I think the story for the Port of New York and New Jersey has been our ability to really flex and expand capacity during this unprecedented cargo growth period.
According to Ruder, the Port of New York and New Jersey completed capacity expansion on several fronts a few years ago, and labor supply held up well amid the COVID-19 pandemic with personal protective equipment supplied to workers.
Before the pandemic, we actually have a number of major infrastructure projects that were completed before the pandemic. And these have all helped reduce operational constraints and helped us, accommodate, the growth. And maybe even going back into the start of the pandemic, we've been very focused on keeping waterfront labor supplied with PPE. Very early in the process, the terminal operators and the employers established temperature checks. We have been able to keep labor, the workforce, healthy, and therefore our labor supply has held up. And this is incredibly important, just given the amount of cargo.